We have to stay home, but we still can celebrate our good moments. Don't miss the human touch with Sitecore Hugs.
I wonder if the ducks are gonna like attack him or something. You know, what's going on with those ducks?
Going to Bourbon Street when you're 23 and single is a little bit different than when you're late 30s, early 40s and married.
We were just filming, and this guy comes over from the hotel and he's trying to kick us out because he's like, doesn't think we have permission, which I've gotten permission from the PR person.
Madam, I'm sorry I lied to you. Welcome to Sitecore Hugs. Today I'm here with my friends Charles Turano.
Hi, how you doing?
Mark Stiles.
Good afternoon.
And Jason.
How's it going, y'all?
Thanks for coming, guys. You are all here because you've been in a lot of Sitecore user groups conferences in the past. And the first one was in the Netherlands.
The first time I ever went was in 2015, and I got a random email from Robert Hawk. He was just like, hey, I'd really like to see you at SUGCON, you should come. It sounded like a really interesting idea. I mean, I was trying to get into the community, wrote a lot of blog posts. So I talked to my boss and somehow managed to get permission to go. I flew over there, and my company let me go because they have an office there. So I went to Naarden for the day, worked there, and then met somebody like along the way. Happened to be going to Eindhoven. They drove me there, dropped me off, and then I get to my hotel, started calling him Robert and trying to find him, and he's like, you gotta come out to this bar that we're at. So then I got on a bus and drove all the way out, planes, trains, and automobiles, and then finally got there. It was probably like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just walking into this bar. It's a huge bar, and I'm just looking around, and Robert Hawk comes running up out of nowhere and gives me this huge hug. He's like, you made it! And he gives me this bear hug. Yeah, I'd never met him before. He's just like, it was a good first meeting, really friendly guy.
The ducks, they weren't really angry, but we were sitting there watching Mark do an interview, and there were all these ducks, and they're kind of like walking around, and I wonder if the ducks are going to like attack him or something. What's going on with those ducks? 'Cause they're just in the background, but they were kind of looking a little suspicious.
I'm unaware entirely about how close the interview is to being ruined.
Eindhoven was my first SUGCON as well. It was the first time I'd been to Europe in a whole bunch of years. We had an office in Bulgaria, so I flew over to Bulgaria for the week. I couldn't get myself adjusted to the time zone. I was sleeping maybe 2 hours a night, and I have to do a presentation. I'm almost too tired to be scared. We leave Bulgaria, and we flew on Wizz Air, which was interesting. Very low budget airlines, landed in Eindhoven, and we're walking around in the morning, 9 a.m. or something. So we're just walking around trying to figure out what to do. We walk down this street, and there's this really big tanker truck parked on the road, and it's got this hose running into a building. And this guy comes out, he's actually delivering beer to the bar, 1,000-gallon tank. It's a refrigerated truck, and we start talking to the guy, and he's showing us, so he's got all these levers that you could pull and the temperatures of each of the beers, and he could select which beer he's putting into. It's like, wow, they deliver beer by truck here. Impressive system that they've got in Eindhoven.
It's like a fuel up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is where you say, I feel as I've been hit by a truck. Still in 2015, the same year, in New Orleans, the edition where some dance became history in our community.
We're warming up for that. Actually, and Mike contacted me, and for all the speakers, they tried to do like a music video. I was told that this was going to be some sort of like a runner-up to them singing on stage, but I didn't really know what was going to happen. So when I got there, and they're like, in the morning, they're like, come with us, and we're kind of like behind the stage in the hallway, And all of a sudden, Akshay comes out of nowhere, and he's dressed up like the Celtics or something. And Mike comes out, and he's like this like stretchy plastic gold suit. I don't know what what it was. I was like, uh-oh. You got to imagine the scene, right? It's like 9 a.m. Everybody's just waking up, getting their coffee, and these two guys dressed up run on stage, and they hadn't played any of the videos yet, so nobody had gotten like a context of everybody was going to sing up on stage in these ridiculous suits, like giving it to the audience. Kind of a surreal moment.
And that was my first Sitecore event, so I was like, wow, so I guess this is how they roll.
When I got to the airport, Dennis Oliver was there, and I guess we were on the same flight, so I'm sitting with him. He knows the usual antics, I'm coming down with my video set, and I had gotten like a drone, so out of his concern for my, well-being, he started telling me about the Napoleonic Code in the French Quarter and how you had to hire a local attorney if you got into trouble. I told him to stop and just do it on video, so I used it as like an intro to one of the videos. If you're going to get into trouble, you have to hire a local attorney.
I was walking down Bourbon Street. It was in the afternoon because it was light out. I was with two other guys from Hedgehog, Pete and Derek. And we're just walking, talking. And all of a sudden, this pretty woman comes out of the bar, grabs Derek and I by the arm. And she's like, come on in. And I know what's going on. She probably works for the bar. And her job is to bring people in so they buy her drinks, and spend money in the bar. And then Pete grabs our arms and he's holding on to me and Derek, and she's holding on to me and Derek, and she's trying to pull us in, and he's trying to pull, and we're having this tug of war in the middle of Bourbon Street. I'm like, I don't want to be part of it.
New Orleans and Bourbon Street, I grew up about 4 hours from there. I've been there a whole bunch of times, but I got to say, going to Bourbon Street when you're 23 and single is a little bit different than when you're late 30s, early 40s and married.
Care to elaborate on that? We had one night where we were out, and there was a group of us. There was one fella, and he was shall remain unnamed. He looked like he was, dangling like a marionette. But he ended up finding us this bar somehow through his special vision with 2 piano bar. The guys were kind of getting to the end of the night, so they were like, if you want us to stay, though. So around, went the money pot. But we were all pushed in a little bit. It just kept on playing for about another hour or whatever it was. The whole floor was basically Sitecore people just cutting it up.
That was my first European SUGCON. I'm kind of fuzzy on any good stories from that trip, though.
Well, that means it was good.
Yeah, I do remember towards the end, most everybody came out. We're leaving to go home, and Nick Wesselman comes up to me and says, hey, we're going to Sweden for dinner. We're going to Sweden for dinner. I mean, it's a 20-minute train ride or something. And I found my favorite wheat beer of all time was on that trip. But I don't know, I thought it was just kind of funny. Hey, we're going to Sweden for dinner. Want to come?
A little tied up in Germany right now.
There's 15 or 20 of us sitting on some little patio at some tables. A couple of people might have picked up some baked goods, and were enjoying their baked goods and kind of waiting to kick in. There was this alleyway that you can drive down it, but I guess you're not supposed to much. So they've got one of those pylons that raises up and down out of the ground. There was a car had come out, so the pylon went down. Pete runs over to the pylon, just stands on it as the pylon is going up, and he extends his arms out and everything, and everybody got a big kick out of it, and there were applause.
So when I got there, I made the mistake of drinking on an empty stomach. So when we were landing, I was consequently in the bathroom. But I got off. I was still pretty sick, and I ended up making it to the place. And the lady who had rented out the space kind of felt bad for me. So she made me a little tea and toast, try to make me feel better, which I didn't. And I barely got like a nap in. Made it race straight to the pavilion. I had to get up on stage like almost immediately. So I like threw all my stuff in the hallway, got up on stage, but I got through it anyway. I guess I did pretty well. Probably the longest day of my life, but even just a reason to go hang out with all the Sitecore people there.
While the location of the hotel was, quite a ways outside any kind of the touristy stuff, outside of the city center or anything, it was a nice big hotel that most everybody, if not everybody, was staying there at the hotel, and the conference was there at the hotel. There was 3 or 4 or more restaurants there at the hotel, so we really didn't have to leave, which meant that most people didn't leave, which meant we, just got to go to the conference and then hang out a lot together. And yeah, that was by far the best venue yet.
Yeah, it was like a glass building. It was like the roof was like this huge glass, like interior, just like so bright.
Yeah, I remember everything was white. Like the floor was white, the walls were white, everything was white.
I remember the very bizarre artwork in that glass area. Couldn't quite figure out what some of those things were trying to do or say. Just weird. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a great building. There was a lot of room, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, there was, like you say, lots of restaurants and things. So it was definitely cool.
I was filming two different times. One was with Peter Brinkman, and we were talking about the hackathon. And so this is kind of like late at night. It's like in the back area where there's like a stage for other stuff. And we were just filming, and this guy comes over from the hotel, and he's trying to kick us out because he's like doesn't think we have permission, which I've gotten permission from the PR person. I've learned to do that. But Peter didn't stand for it. He gave him he basically told him to get lost and he better talk to his boss, or otherwise he's gonna pull the funding from the conference, which was nice because I was like the last one I had to film. I was worried. But the other one, we were in the middle of the hotel and we were filming, and I don't know who it was came up, but she was concerned that we were filming. You could see because it was all glass. You could see the people behind, but you can't. The focus is on the people speaking. And she made me turn off one of the cameras and was like checking out all the angles, and I was like, oh my god, it's like any simple little thing is so much more difficult than you'd ever imagine. I got the shot anyway, but not without a little bit of turmoil.
I don't know which night it was. There was one night we were around enjoying some adult beverages for a number of hours, and it gets to be like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Naturally we're hungry, but nobody's ready to go to bed. So all the restaurants in the hotel have closed down at this point, and we're all kind of sitting around on the couches in this big open lobby, and like, well, where can we find something to eat? So somebody looks up, pulls up Google Maps and finds this one place within like a 10-mile radius is open, and it was this kebab shop. So we get I think it's 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 of us get an Uber, and we hop in and we go to this kebab shop at 3 o'clock in the morning. And
Doner kebab? Probably Doner kebab.
It was fantastic. Oh, they were so good. Had nothing to do with the fact that it was 3 a.m. and anything, but it was fantastic. They were super spicy, and it was just great. That next night, naturally we're all hanging around enjoying some adult beverages for a bunch of hours, and here comes 3 o'clock in the morning again, and we're like, well, we're hungry. So he's like, well, hey, I know a place. So 3 o'clock in the morning, we get like 3 or 4 Ubers, and 15 or 20 of us show up in this this little kebab shop. These 2 guys are like, it'll be a while. Once I got there, I was kind of running behind on my presentation, and I did spend about the first, I don't know, 16 hours in London in my hotel room working on my presentation. So that kind of sucked. Isn't that pretty much all of us? Working on the demo till the last 15 minutes.
I'm like, why do I have to do the dev track? Why can't I just do like a PowerPoint and be done with it?
Must be something in the air in London, because I was doing the same thing in my hotel room. The time that my demo worked, I was, oh my god, it worked! I can't believe it.
Don't touch anything, it worked.
We were out there and having some beers, having fun outside. Corey was provoking me to sing, and he wanted me to sing some AC/DC, you know? London was very quiet at that time. And the next day, my friend Himadri, he came to me and said, "Hey, did you hear that thing last night?" "What?" "Oh, some people singing, I don't know, on the streets." "No, man, didn't hear anything." "Himadri, I'm sorry, I lied to you."
I thought it was a great way for us to come together and, meet, virtually. I mean, it's not as great as in person, but it was a way for us to still get together and kind of share some knowledge and things like that. It kind of got canceled pretty late last minute, and it wasn't until they canceled that several of us kind of circled the wagons and organized this virtual SUGCON. And I mean, it was a complete thing. It was, separate call for papers, separate organization, separate, session, choosing the sessions and everything from what SUGCON would have been. But I thought it turned out pretty cool, and we got some really good feedback about it. And I think the concept is kind of neat though too.
Kind of reminded me of the what was it? Mike Shaw used to do that. 24 hours of Sitecore or something.
I was in the office for a good part of that. That was in the Hedgehog office in Holbrook. He was locked in the conference room. It was nuts.
This video is celebrating the next SUGCON that is happening. Throw out some words.
Keep the fire going, man. I miss you. I miss all of you.
I can't wait to see everybody again and actually go somewhere.
I'm really looking forward to the time that we can all get together in person again and maybe even find another kebab shop at 3 a.m.